All right, I want you to picture this. You're on a small yacht and you're in the middle of the Mediterranean in winter. Your mission? A crazy 600-kilometer voyage from Italy all the way to Spain. This isn't just some pleasure cruise, believe me. It's a true test of your will, a flat-out battle against the elements. And it's a story about how an experience like this can completely change you. And it all starts with this one simple idea from the captain. Be humble before the sea. You know, it's this constant reminder that no matter how good you are, no matter how much you plan, the ocean always has the final say. And boy, was that humility about to be tested in ways they never could have dreamed of. So, who is this captain anyway? Well, he's a guy who left home about 15 years ago just to travel the world. A decade ago, he was on a trip in the Caribbean, and that's when this dream sparked. One day, he was going to buy his own yacht and sail around the entire globe. And now, he's actually doing it. He's living the dream. Which brings us right here to this specific mission. We're talking about a 4-day, nonstop trip across one of the most unpredictable seas on the planet, during winter no less. This leg of the journey, it is absolutely not for the faint of heart. It's the longest and toughest challenge this crew has ever faced. So the voyage starts off with a lot of excitement, as you'd expect. But that excitement, it doesn't last long. It pretty quickly turns into a desperate fight for survival. This is the exact moment the adventure becomes a terrifying ordeal as the sea starts to flex its real muscle. The winds start picking up fast. We're at 29 knots. Now, just to give you some perspective, a lot of very experienced sailors won't even untie from the dock if the wind is over 20 knots. It's not just the wind, it's what that wind does to the water, building up these huge waves. So yeah, the crew is already in territory that most people would go way out of their way to avoid. But here's where it gets kind of crazy. While the crew is getting more and more nervous, the captain, he starts to get excited. He's actually smiling. And for the person telling this story, that smile becomes the ultimate warning sign, a signal that they're heading into some seriously deep water. The wider the captain's smile, the worse the storm. And yep, he was right to be worried. It's not long before the wind speed blows right past 30 knots. We are now officially in gale force territory. At this speed, the sea just transforms. It goes from being choppy to being an absolute monster, with these massive, powerful waves just crashing over the boat, one after another, relentlessly. Inside the cabin, life becomes basically impossible. The yacht is just stuck at this constant 45-degree angle. You can't walk, you can't even really stand. And the boat itself, it's groaning and creaking under all that pressure. It's this constant, unnerving sound of wood and metal being pushed right to their breaking point. This quote, wow, it just perfectly captures the sheer violence of it all. The crew said it felt like being in a non-stop car crash. Every few seconds, bam, another huge wave slams into the side of the boat. It's this violent jolt that just throws everyone around the cabin, and this goes on for 10 straight hours. And in the darkest moments of that night, trapped inside the cabin, just hearing the roar of the wind and the constant crashing of the waves, a really stark reality hits. The narrator admits, for the very first time, they had the thought, this could be it. This is how I could die. But you know what? This story isn't just about surviving. It's about what happens to a person when they're pushed way past their limits. It's about being forged into something stronger by the very thing that's threatening to break you. And this slide just shows the change perfectly. On the very first day sailing in rough seas, the narrator was so seasick they were stuck in bed, totally useless. Okay, fast forward just a few days, and they're in even worse conditions. But this time, they're not just standing, they're in the galley, bracing against that 45-degree tilt, cooking hamburgers for the whole crew. I mean, the transformation is just staggering. And that growth, it was built on all these little, hard-won victories. Things like learning to actually handle the helm in the middle of a storm, even for just a few minutes, or just being able to change your clothes without getting sick. Pushing through the headaches, the pain, the low blood sugar, and somehow finding the will to just get up and help out. Every single one was a huge step forward. So when you go through something like this, it naturally brings up one of life's biggest questions, right? When you are staring your own mortality right in the face, how do you even begin to deal with that fear? What do you do? The captain's answer to this is just so profound. He says he's not really scared of death itself.
What he's truly scared of is the version of himself that lets fear win. The self that's too afraid to go after the things he wants in life? He would literally rather risk it all than live a life where fear is calling all the shots.
They say after every storm comes the calm. Well, after a night of absolute hell, the crew was about to get a reward so incredible it would make every single terrifying moment feel worth it. So as morning comes, the wind finally starts to die down. The violent crashing stops, and it's replaced by this gentle rocking. The crew, totally exhausted, sore but definitely alive, they slowly make their way out onto the deck for the first time in what feels like forever. And what they see is just pure magic. Stretching across the entire sky is this perfect, vibrant double rainbow. And because they're out in the middle of the ocean, with nothing blocking the view, they can see the whole thing, from the exact spot it touches the water on one side, all the way to where it ends on the other. A sight like that, it's something most people will never get to see in their entire lives. It really feels like a gift from the sea, a reward for everything they just endured. And in that moment, all the pain and fear just washes away. They realize, this is why we do it. For these impossible, beautiful moments. Okay, so with the storm behind them and their spirits totally renewed, the last part of the journey is just about reaching the destination and starting to think about what comes next. After nearly 400 miles, that's 600 kilometers of open ocean, land finally appears on the horizon. They made it. They safely guide the yacht into the marina in Majorca, Spain, and their epic, harrowing crossing is finally over. But for the captain, this isn't really an end. Nope. It's just one piece of a much, much bigger picture he calls the traveler's journey. It's his lifelong mission to explore the world through all its different elements. He actually sees his life in these 3 epic stages. First up was land. He backpacked across continents. Right now, he's in the middle of dream number 2, the sea, sailing the globe. And what happens when that's done? Well, he's already got a 3rd dream waiting, to see the world from the air by flying his own small plane. Which really just leaves us all with one final thought. We just watched someone go through a living nightmare, all in the name of their dream. It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? What are you passionate enough about to face your own storm? What dream would you cross an ocean for?